Why, hello there. I am
Nanotyrannus, young T-Rex. Nanotyrannus, young T-Rex. Nanotyrannus, T-Rex. Nanotyrannus, Nanotyrannus.
Oh gosh, what the heck? Why is it getting bright in here?
I'm the Troodon, and I always tell the truth. Let me tell you about it.
Who the heck are you?
I'm the Troodon.
Okay, yeah, but where the heck am I? Welcome to the wastebasket of questionable, indeterminate, dubious, and straight-up invalid genera and species. What? I mean, aren't you a Nanotyrannus? You know, the genus that's probably synonymized with Tyrannosaurus as its junior synonym. Well, I guess so. It seems that this is going to be your new home, pal. But will I ever get to return home? That's for the scientists to, well, tell you. Either way, I might as well introduce you to the other inhabitants. Well, okay. Anyways, come with me. Over here we have a few of our residents. First off, we have Pteranodon, Sternbergia, or Geosternbergia. Maybe his own species, or genus, or may just be his own species of Pteranodon. Of course, we also have Craterosaurus, known from two fragmentary remains to really say much about. Beckelspinax, synonymous with the genus Altispinax due to, well, it just being a renaming of it. And then, of course, we have a few other residents here. Stygimoloid, which pops back in and out of being its own genus, a different species of Pachycephalosaurus, or even, again, just a junior synonym of Pachycephalosaurus itself. And also a few others, Iguanodon, Megalosaurus, and, of course, Spinosaurus, which pops in here every now and then just, end up getting kicked out, and then some of its other, possible synonyms like Australia and Signomastosaurus. You get the point. There are many of us here. Are you okay? Okay, anyways. There are many of us here. And there are likely more to come at some point. Anyways. Be off to go, find a new nest to lay some more eggs. Anyways, up off. What in heck creek just happened? Oh, gosh, I probably should have moved off this island a long time ago. Hello guys, welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be doing a review on the Jurassic World Rebirth Strike Attack Wave 2 Nanotyrannus. Anyways, let's jump into this video. We're not going to even talk about the validity of Nanotyrannus because, frankly, it's not fun. I personally think that it's a juvenile T-Rex. I personally think the evidence for that's a little bit better. I do see the evidence for it being its own genus, but still think just it being a juvenile Tyrannosaurus just makes more sense to me, so yeah. Anyways, let's take a closer look at the packaging. So we have Nanotyrannus, Spinosaurus on the packaging, Nanotyrannus at the top. The background actually looks pretty nice. Still not a fan of the red and black on the packaging, but the backgrounds look pretty nice. Even though there's no actual patterns on the bottom of the box, but I guess that's not too big of a deal. Then we have this side. The other strike attack, I saw the other two, Uniceratops and Herrerasaurus. Did not see the Achillibator, but, yeah. So, yeah, this is pretty much it. The packaging is pretty simple. I actually think the Uniceratops is really cool. Just wish that it was a different genus instead of doing Uniceratops again, because I think the sculpt's pretty good, the action feature's pretty nice. It's honestly just feels like a waste that we're getting another Uniceratops, a sculpt that we didn't really need a redo of. But, yeah, looking at this Nanotyrannus, let's actually take it out of the packaging. So first, let's cut these wires. Oh, actually, there's one more by the foot. Did not even realize it. But, yeah, this is only my second Rebirth Strike Attack figure I've gotten. The first was the Inostransabia. I might go back and get the Yakisaurus at some point, but, as of now, I think this is probably the last Rebirth figure I'm really going to be getting. But, yeah. Anyways, let's take a closer look at the Nanotyrannus. Definitely a pretty decent looking figure. Starting off with the head, which honestly, the only issue I have with this figure is I wish the snout was longer. Outside of that, I think this figure is actually really nice. So yeah, snout looks very similar to a Tyrannosaur, so that's pretty nice. Good on the neck, pretty good. Just kind of simple, kind of. There's a few larger scales every now and then, but for most part, kind of more uniform scales and a few veins going down the neck. We have some pretty simple kind of wrinkly skin details on the actual figure. Going down to the hands, they're almost webbed-like a little bit, though I think that's not intentional. Of course, no painted nails, but I guess it's not too big of a deal. Going down the rest of the body, I had really nice, the feet look really nice. There's like really good kind of smaller scales on it, and also the scoots on the top of them look pretty good as well. The claws also looking more sharp, which is also always great. The hands are actually a bit rubbery, so that's pretty cool. See kind of the torso area. And yeah, this is a pretty simple figure. This is kind of just a simple Therapod, I suppose, but it's still fun because it's Nanotyrannus. Hopefully in the future we can see like Raptor Rex, which I know is juvenile Tarbosaurus, but could be cool to get it and then also have the color scheme either be similar to the Tarbosaurus figure Mattel released or similar to the Tarbosaurus from Hidden Adventures. And then we could also maybe get Tyrannus, which actually is not a dubious genus, or at least a synonym or something. It's actually its own genus, so it'd be cool to get some other small Tyrannosaurs. But yeah. Moving on to the articulation, the arms move forwards and backwards. They don't move out or anything, just forwards and backwards. The legs can go backwards about this far, I want to say, and forwards about this far, though maybe you can push it further. Let me, real quick while we're here, actually, let's finish the articulation. The legs cannot move outwards, and then the tail can also move side to side. That's it, and that's tied to the action feature. Same with the neck and jaw, which are also tied to the action feature, but the jaw can open. Which actually, let's take a closer look at the inside of the mouth, because I kind of forgot to do that. There's no paint on the inside, but it is detailed, and I think the tongue and lower jaw teeth actually look pretty nice as well. So, yeah. Anyways, moving on to the actual scan code, I wanted to show that off because I have a tendency to forget that, and I would like to actually remember to show the scan code this time. So yeah, if I can get my camera to focus on it, yeah, there you go. So yeah, if you'd like to actually get this guy in your Jurassic Facts app, there you go. Now moving on to the actual action feature. Pretty much, you can move the tail, and it kind of just opens the mouth and chomps. Unlike the Wild Raw figure, this thing actually starts with the mouth closed. Mattel, just stick with this. It's better when the animal's mouth is closed and then you move the action feature to open it. I don't mind in the Wild Raws as much because outside of that, the rest of the figures are usually pretty solid, but yeah, it can really ruin a figure. Kind of like the Power Devour T-Rex, where that thing physically cannot close its mouth. There's no state in which the mouth is fully closed ever. Even if you try to force the jaw closed, it's basically impossible to shove that thing's jaw closed. So it really just sucks, honestly. That figure just doesn't look the best. And honestly, the action feature is also not very good in my opinion. But this one, I actually think the action feature is way better. So out of the 3 T-Rexes Mattel released this year, I feel like 2 out of 3 of them are great and one of them is definitely not the best. So yeah, but this Nanotyrannus is definitely pretty fun, or juvenile T-Rex, whatever the heck you want to call it. I might call it Nanotyrannus just for separation. At this point, I use Nanotyrannus and any other Dinosaurs Jr. synonym as just like a term for the younger individual. For example, Nanotyrannus is just the name for a juvenile T-Rex, kind of like, for example, how some modern animals like a baby cow is a calf or something like that. That's honestly just feels like an easier term just to use it. And plus, even if the animal does turn out to be valid, you're calling it the right thing the whole time. So either way, that's kind of just how I'm probably going to use the term. But yeah. Also, the color scheme of being like blue is kind of random, but I also really like it. I feel like if they did do green, it'd be too similar to like Junior and the other juvenile T-Rexes Mattel has released. So yeah, let's actually move on to the size comparison. This figure measures in at about 8 inches long, or about 7.5 actually, I'd say. I accidentally knocked it out. And then the in height is about 3 inches tall, or at the top of the head, I'd also say is about a little bit more than 3 inches tall. Actually, wait, no, the hip, I'd say it's more like 2.5 inches, and the head, I'd say it's about 3 inches tall. So yeah. Now let's actually compare it to a few things. Let's start off with my other Rebirth Strike Attack figure, the Inostransubia. These guys are both more cartoony ones. But, yeah, definitely think, I don't know. Technically, I think the Nanotyrannus sculpt is a little bit better, but I like the Inostransubia just for being an Inostransubia. And the action feature, I think, just works a little bit better. Because it's a little bit more, like, versatile. You can really just have it kind of do anything. Well, this is a very specific pose it kind of goes into. But, yeah, actually putting these guys side by side, pretty similar in size. I hope we get more really good Strike Attack figures. The first wave of a lot of the Rebirth Strike Attacks are re-releases. Like, I think we got 2 new ones being Yoxiosaurus and Inostransubia for wave 1. And then after that, the rest of the wave was a re-release of Monoophosaurus and Tapejara. Though I don't hate how that wave was done. I actually do like getting one obscure creature, or like, I mean, not obscure creature, one non-dinosaur creature, whether that be a marine reptile or or some sort of like Triassic reptile or Paleozoic synapsid or something like that is always a good thing to get. Then also getting a pterosaur is also good, and I think it gets bonus points for being a re-release. Because I actually do like re-releases of figures when they're harder to get. Tappy Jar, it was a figure that I was able to get a hold of, but I know a lot of people missed out on it because it was kind of a rarer release. So it's nice that they brought that back. And then Monolophosaurus is kind of just a random one. Would prefer to get a new species or a new sloth instead of that, but still. But then for the newer release, for the second wave, we also got similar things. I do wish that we would have gotten a non-dinosaur creature in it, but instead, we got a full wave of dinosaurs. And I think only one of them was a re-release, though well, technically it was a retool. It was using the same sculpt, but they were putting a new action feature on it. And then after that, Nanotyrannus, new sculpt, a Kilobator, a bit too cartoony for my liking, but still a new sculpt. And then Zuniceratops baffles me. Mattel already made a good Zuniceratops model. It's not even like outdated or anything, yet they updated it for some reason. I mean, it looks good, but still would have been nice to get something else. Definitely think my ideal like strike attack wave would be one pterosaur, one wild card, which can be like a Paleozoic animal, or like one Paleozoic animal, or like early Triassic animal or something like that. Then after that, have two dinosaurs. Probably a carnivore and a herbivore. One of them can be, and then honestly would be preferable for the, pretty much have at least one of those 4 figures be a re-release of any one, and then the other 2, then at least 3 of them should be new sculpts, I feel. That's kind of how I think Strike Attack Waves should be done. But I think that Rebirth Waves were done pretty similar to that. So yeah, anyways, compare it to the next thing. Let's compare it to the Utah Raptor. Don't know why I just felt like this would be a fun one to compare it to. But oh yeah, Utah Raptor can just completely decimate Nanotyrannus. So yeah. I also think this Nanotyrannus figure might be a bit too small, but we'll be able to see that when we compare it to the Velociraptor figure and the human figure. Definitely think this is a bit too small. I mean, yes, technically, again, since Nanotyrannus probably is just a growth stage of T-Rex, or at least juvenile T-Rex, it would make sense that Nanotyrannus could definitely have been this small at some point. Though realistically, I think Nanotyrannus is big enough that it really should have been in the Wild Roar or even Strike Attack. Honestly, you could release a Nanotyrannus figure in anywhere from this size range all the way up to the Strike Attack size range, and it would still probably be a Nanotyrannus figure, and it still would fit in scale. So yeah, this is just like a small Nanotyrannus. Either way. Next, let's compare it to literally all of, yes, every single one of my other Wave 2 Rebirth figures. These are all the figures from Wave 2 I'll probably be getting. I mean, I don't think there are any other ones I'm really particularly interested in. Maybe the Menquaria, but I don't even know about that one. Pretty much the only other 2 Rebirth figures are hard maybes, the Articulation and the Menquaria, but everything else I've pretty much got on the entire toy line, at least of the figures I'm interested in. And Wave 2 definitely didn't have as many interesting figures to get, but still think that it was a pretty good wave. And some of the best sculpts. Parasaurus, Allosaurus, and Spiklops are probably some of the best sculpts Mattel put out. And then we also have some really good color patterns like the Chelantosaurus, and then we also got some pretty solid ones like Nanotyrannus and this random pterosaur. Not gonna lie, kind of forgot this thing was Wave 2, or even that I purchased it since I got this guy a while ago. And also my pterosaur shelf is just really hard to see, so I can't really see which figures I have up there. But yeah. Pretty much, I think I have a figure from every size range, actually, from Wave 2, just realizing, because we have Danger Pack, Strike Attack, Wild Roar, and Gigantic Thrasher. Which size range would I say is the best? Okay, this is kind of a random point. I know I ramble a lot, but yeah. I kind of wanted to talk about which size range of the Mattel toy line is, like, the best to purchase. Because I'm kind of doing a mixture between basically what you get out of the figure plus the price. I would say the worst, like, okay, if you're, like, going based off price and, like, everything you get out of it for a figure, the worst is the Strike Attack. I think they're you don't get much for the price they are. This figure was, like, I think it was, like, $14, like, almost $15. Like, let me actually check real fast. Okay, yeah, this figure was, like, $14.16. And I would like to let you know, this is $14, I mean, not 16, 60 cents. So almost $15 for this entire figure after, like, taxes and stuff. While the Allosaurus, a significantly bigger figure with a much better action feature, and admittedly, in my opinion, a better sculpt, was only, like, probably 16 after tax. That's, like, again, if we're going based off their base prices, this figure is, like, 14, I think. And this figure was like 15. So it's like $1 to $2 difference between these figures. And I don't know about you, but this figure has sound effects, much larger, and a much more usable action feature compared to the Nanotyrannus, which is pretty simple and also very small. So yeah, definitely say Wild Roar is definitely better than Strike Attack. Strike Attack is probably the bottom. Danger Packs also. Danger Packs, I can't remember the prices they are, because the price changes a lot. But if it's like $6, I think it's like anywhere from $6 to $8. If it's $8, then I'd say it's just slightly better. Admittedly, like if you just want to get like if there's like one species you really want from the Danger Pack, I definitely say it's really worth it to get a Danger Pack figure. But otherwise, if you're getting a bunch of them, the price adds up pretty fast. And then we have the Gigantic Thrasher figure, which Gigantic Thrashers go in the middle. I think that they have the best action features and the best sculpts and usually the best species choice, but they're also a bit more expensive than Wild Roars. If this was back before the Wild Roar prices went down, the Wild Roars, at least last time I checked, before, more recently, were like around $20, I think. I think they're like $21 almost, which I felt was a bit expensive for them, because they used to be closer to 15 back when Fallen Kingdom came out. But they were basically the same price as the Gigantic Thrashers, and the Gigantic Thrashers I just thought were better. But now seeing this, now that they're down to 15, I definitely think that the Wild Roars is the best size range. You could buy, again, most times when the Wild Roar size range comes out, most people, if they're not like hardcore collectors, are you only going to get like 3 out of 4 figures, if even that, and only being like what, $30 for 2 figures, and like 45, probably a little bit more, almost 50 for 3 figures, I think is just actually a pretty decent deal. So yeah, definitely think that this is how I'd rank the size ranges of the like figures, at least currently. And this is also based in the US, because I know they have different prices in different regions. So it would probably change my ranking of these somewhat. But yeah, as of now, I'd probably say this is my ranking for them. But yeah, back to the Nanotyrannus for its last size comparison. Here is the Lab Lockdown T-Rex, superior to the other Tyrannosaurus figure we got, the Power Devourer one. Saw that figure at stores, finally figured out how to use the action feature, and I still don't like it much. The Lab Lockdown one just has a better sculpt, and also it has its mouth closed, so it doesn't look stupid 24/7. So, yeah. Definitely say the Lab Lockdown T-Rex is better. And you can kind of just have it as the Juvenile T-Rex. If you don't have a Juvenile T-Rex, Nanotyrannus, I think, works pretty decent. Not perfect, but pretty decent. Also, the color scheme really does not work, but the actual design itself, I guess, could. Even despite this T-Rex being a bit goofy compared to the actual, really realistic Lab Lockdown T-Rex. So, yeah. Definitely think the Nanotyrannus is a fun figure. This is a figure that I wouldn't, 100% recommend it. Unlike something like, let's say, the Allosaurus or the Parasaurus, where I'd recommend it to quite literally everyone to get that figure if they see it. The Nanotyrannus, I would say, if you like the Nanotyrannus, then I recommend picking it up. But otherwise, it's definitely a pretty decent figure. So yeah, probably the best of the Wave 2 figures, in my opinion. It has the probably the best sculpt. Mixed between sculpt and action feature, outside of Zuniceratops. Again, I think the Zuniceratops actually is the best, just kind of don't want it since I already have the older Zuni, so yeah. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and goodbye.